This video is going to show you how to back up or how to save the installer files of the apps you have downloaded and installed from the Google Play Android market. With these installer files, commonly known as APKs, what you'll be able to do is you'll be able to reinstall the application from this installer file without having to re-download and reinstall the app directly from the Google Play Android market. Let's say in the scenario where you are formatting your Android device, you are factory data resetting it, and then you want to restore all your apps. This way you get to skip the step of having to re-download them and reinstall from the Google Play Android market. What you can also do is you can transfer these APK installer files to different Android devices, even if they use different Google accounts, and you'll be able to install said apps on different Android devices using the APK installer files, skipping the step of having to download and install them from the Google Play Android market. On that subject, it's important to note that the APK installer files are exactly that. They are just the installer files made available to everyone through the Google Play Android market. They do not contain any personal information, even if you already use the app. What this does is this does not back up the app with your login credentials, with your the content you've created or submitted to the application. This essentially only backs up the installer file that is made available to everyone through the Google Play Android market. So, in order to do this, what you need to do is you need to search on the Google Play Android market for the letters APK. What you should then find is you should find an app known as APK Extractor. Now the one I've used is APK Extractor by Meher. There are others that exist. I don't know how well they work. All I know is that I've used APK Extractor and it has done what I need it to do. So, that being said, you want to ensure that the app that you want to back up or save the installer file for is properly installed to your Android device. Once it is installed, what you want to do is you want to open up APK Extractor. Now, in APK Extractor, you want to scroll through the list of apps that are on your Android device, and you want to find the app in question that you want to back up the installer file for. In this example, we are going with the Oasis app. Once you find said app in APK Extractor, you want to tap directly on the title, not on this little arrow, but rather on the title. Once you do that, you're going to be informed that your app, the installer file, was successfully extracted, so you now have an installer file of said app. Now, what you do with this installer file is, ideally you would want to back it up either on a different storage medium, or you'd want to transfer it to a different device. There's many ways to go about it. You could do so through Bluetooth, you could do so through cloud storage, you could do so through email if your email allows you to send files that large. In my case, I did so using SD cards. Now, in order to transfer the APK installer files to SD cards, I had to use File Explorer apps. Fortunately, in this scenario, both of my Android devices had File Explorer apps. File Explorer apps are not common on all Android operating systems. In my case, I had them, so you'll have to find your own method of transferring the APK installer files in question if you cannot use this method. So essentially what I did was I opened up my File Explorer. I went in the extracted APKs folder of the internal storage of my device, and lo and behold, I found my APK installer file. I checked it, I copied it, I then navigated to the SD card, and I pasted, so I pasted the APK installer files to the SD card, and as you can see on the SD card, I had it right here. What I then did was I wanted to transfer the APK installer file and install the app onto a different Android device. Now, very important, in doing so, you are going to note that in the settings of the Android device that you backed up the content on, the Android device that you saved the installer file on, you're going to have to go into settings and note the Android version that you are running. On the device that you want to transfer the APK 2. This best works if the Android device that you're transferring the APK to has either the same version of the Android operating system or a higher version of the Android operating system. In this scenario, let's say I used this Android operating system 5.1.1 to back up the app, to back up the APK installer file, and then I tried to install it on this Android device 4.3, it probably won't work. Essentially, apps can run on the same version of the Android operating system or on higher versions of the Android operating system, but not the inverse. So an app destined for Android 5, chances are, would not run on Android 4.3. So that being said, essentially what I did was, as you can see, I took the app, I backed it up to the SD card, and then from there on my destination Android device, I had to go into settings and I had to go into security and I had to enable unknown sources, allow installation of apps from unknown sources. This is extremely important. If you do not do this, you will not be able to install apps directly from APK installer files. Rather, you would only be able to install apps from the Google Play Android market. Now, when you enable this, you're going to be given a warning that states that you risk installing malicious code. There is a higher risk that essentially viruses, malware, things of this nature can get on your Android device, which is true. If you start downloading APK installer files from torrents or the web or who knows where you find your source of information, you can install some malicious sketchy code. In this example, we backed up APK installer files directly from apps we had downloaded ourselves from the Google Play Android market. So that being said, they should be relatively safe and relatively secure. Of course, does APK Extractor by Maher introduce any extra code, any malicious code? I have no idea. I have no idea who Maher is. All I know is that this method worked for me, so proceed at your own risks and perils. So once you have your APK on your destination Android device and allow installation of apps from unknown sources is enabled, what you can then do is, if you have a file explorer like I do, you can navigate your storage medium that has the APK installer file. You can tap on it, and from that point you will be prompted to install said app. If you elect to install, the app should install. App installed, and once opened, voila, there you go. You have successfully backed up an APK installer file from an app you downloaded and installed from the Google Play Android market, and in this scenario you have transferred said application to a different Android device entirely without having to re-download said app and reinstall said app directly from the Google Play Android market. Well, there you go. I'll leave you with that. I hope this information helps, and as usual, all the best.